and welcome. As you will have just seen, I just harvested my pumpkins or squashes for this year, and we ended up with 6. So I thinking that is a crown prince. So we did have 1. It's nowhere near as big as the 3 I had last year, but hopefully it will taste nice. And this one is a golden mammoth. So I wouldn't really say that's mammoth, but it just wasn't my year for growing pumpkins, really. I didn't keep on top of feeding the compost that was in the straw bales, so it's my own fault, really. And happy with the butternut squashes we had. And you'll have just seen that I cleared away this bed, and now I've planted in some spring onions and some lettuce. And if you look really hard enough, you can see some seedlings that I have sown, which actually got decimated on my windowsill. I'm not sure how, but a cabbage white butterfly must have got into the house because they were on my windowsill and laid eggs on them, because when I checked on them, they had been ravaged, eaten. So I never thought they would have flown through the window and laid eggs on such small seedlings, but they did. However, I've planted them here. We've got 3 cabbages down, 3 cauliflowers down the middle, and some lettuce towards the end. Right, let's go and have some breakfast, and I'll talk you through what jobs we've got to do today, because we have got loads to do. Well, I've made my porridge and I'm really looking forward to having it. It's lovely and warm, and it is packed full of vitamins and nutrients and things like that, which hopefully will keep me going in the garden today, because we have got loads to get through today. I need to plant my garlic and broad beans. That is like a priority job, really, because what's the point in having bare earth during the winter when you could grow those? And they do better, in my opinion, for having overwintered. The broad beans are stronger, and the garlic really gets a chance to get its roots down, and with the frost it helps the bulbs to split, whereas when you plant it in the spring there isn't always that guarantee of frost for long enough to split your bulbs. So I would say get your garlic in. Even if you don't want to plant broad beans, get your garlic in now. And then I've got loads of beds I need to clear away. Spoiler alert, my runner beans have fallen down, so I need to clear them. And I've got my asparagus bed at the front, which all needs cutting down. And I've got broccoli, which is growing outside of its cage, as it were. I put some small nets over it, and it is now, it's outgrown it. So those nets need to come off, and I need to weed around there. And there's another job I need to do, but I can't think what that is. But anyway, I'm going to get on and have my porridge now, and then we shall get cracking in the garden. Well, I've just finished my breakfast now. I'm trying my best to eat more variety of food during the week. So having porridge is a good way of getting nuts and seeds and coconuts and different fruits all, in one meal. So I've got about 8 varieties, because you're meant to eat about 30 a week, I think. So I'm making a start anyway. However, we're not here to talk about my food intake, are we? Let's go and have a look at the beans. My beans should be in my greenhouse there. And they're the ones I dried in May time, June time. So let's see what state they are, and then I'll see if I can plant them. I've not dilly-dallied. Look, I put these in here ready to cure, and I've still got my onions, which I need to sort through. But really what's happening is I'm just taking them as and when we need them. And and slowly we're getting through them. But I would like to tidy them up and have them ready, but that doesn't seem to be happening. So here are my broad beans. They're not looking too bad, actually. I think I can plant the majority of them. So we'll give them a go. And then these are field beans that I saved from last spring. But I'm not sure if I'm going to have any free ground that will need them. And my garlic from this year is underneath this box. So I'll pick some fairly biggish cloves from there. There's two varieties here. One I think is Marco and one is something white. I can't remember, but I'll plant the two different varieties, and they've grown well in the past. These are my shallots from this year, the ones that we ended up having, and I will plant these soon as well. And then these are the garlic from last year. So we're just finishing our way through these, and then we'll start on this year's ones. And here's a big pile of bottles that I need to wash out to put fresh wine in that are probably ready now. But I wanted a rainy day to do this. This is a nice day for being in the garden. So I'll go in the garden and get my jobs done. So I've just broken my garlic cloves up just to make it easier to plant. I didn't do the other side because I didn't want to mix the two varieties up. So I'm just going to dip some holes about 20 centimetres apart in both directions. So it's kind of like a grid. And the reason I leave 20 centimetres between each plant is I find that gives you a big bulb. So if you plant your garlic closer together, I tended to find in the past that my garlic was smaller, whereas if I gave them some space, they grew quite big. And the other reason is if I've got 20 centimetres, then come the spring, if I've got a small plug plant that I'm going to grow in this bed, I can still pop it in amongst the garlic while the garlic is still in the ground for about a month before I'm going to harvest the garlic, which then gives that plant a chance to establish while the garlic's still there. So I find that like a really good method for planting my garlic. And I just wanted to say that this bed recently had peas in it, which you might have seen in my last video. And the peas have started to come up. So I'm going to leave them in because they won't overwinter, I don't think anyway. And I can take them for pea shoots. So win-win really. So I'll get on now and do the grid, and I'll show you what it's looking like when I'm done. And I'm planting them to about a depth of 5 centimetres. So more or less the depth of the clove doubled, if that makes sense. Well, that's the garlic all in now. I've got 2 beds here and I've covered it in EnviroMesh just to keep out any pesky allium leaf miner that might be lurking around. And now we can move on to the broad beans, which are going to go in this bed. And the broad beans are very similar to garlic. You just make a hole and pop the bean in and hopefully it'll grow. I'm hoping this will be a nice sunny area over the winter because a lot of the garden is in shade over the winter. So I'm going to do a row of 4 and then a row of 3 in the middle of the 2 I've just done. And then another row of 4 and then another row of 3. I find that makes it easier to harvest the beans as they sort of like in a checkerboard fashion. And it means you can get in amongst them better than when they're all in straight rows, as it were. Since I'm here, I thought I might as well plant these first 2 rows, and then I'll just do the second 2 rows around the other side. I'm just checking the beans as I put them in. Make sure there's nothing wrong with them. I was just thinking, what did I have in this bed before? And it was leeks, which got covered in black fly. And what affects beans? Black fly. So I hope I haven't made a boo-boo here. But only time will tell. So I've got those broad beans in and I've covered them over. It takes more time covering things than it does actually planting them. But in this garden, the cat uses all the beds as a toilet, and sometimes I let the chickens out. So they need covering over, otherwise we'd have no crops whatsoever. But in my hands I've got some Swiss chard and some brassicas. And they're not looking the best, in all honesty. But I've grown them, so I'm going to pop them in and see how they do. I'm not expecting much, but if something comes of them, then something comes of them. It's better than putting them in the compost heap, isn't it? Again, this bed has got peas in it that shouldn't really have, but never mind. Oh, now I'm thinking about it. I do remember where I thought I was going to plant these. I was going to grow them in my greenhouse over the winter. That's what I was going to do. But they're not really worth it. Giving it a go, I might as well try a fresh lot, really. Made to measure. It was actually, I made it. I'm just popping this Swiss chard in now. I'm not sure how much we'll get in, but it might give us a few leaves. Swiss chard is quite good, isn't it, for growing leaves. Egads, a weed in my bed. How atrocious. Right, what was I going to say? Oh yes, I'm just planting the Swiss chard here, and then hopefully be able to cover this bed over. I've been using these Charles Dowden 60 cell trays this year. And I can't say I'm getting on very well with them, to be honest. I'm not really producing many good seedlings with them. Now, it might be the compost I'm using, because the amount that you need, or the amount that you can pop into these cell trays, is not very big. But if anyone's looking to buy them, I would just hesitate. I don't know if I would buy these again. I think I will buy some that are just slightly bigger and have a bit more room for things. But that's just me. What do you guys think? Have you found them very good? This is why I never have any wood chip left on my paths. Because of these little mini raptors here. No good pecking at my feet. Look at these dahlias here. They're still going strong. Look at that lovely pink of that. And then the lovely two-tone of the white and the pink of that one. These are lovely. A lovely splash of colour to see us through the autumn. Well, this is the bed that I need to sort out in the front garden. It's got broccoli that is outgrowing its nets, so I need to take these nets off. I haven't seen any cabbage whites for a few days, so I'm just going to chance it. I've got loads of weeding to do in this bed, absolutely loads. I've got the asparagus fronds or spears, whichever way you call them, to cut back. I've got mint to put in my cold frame at the back. Hopefully it'll keep producing through the winter so we can have some mint. And well, I think that's enough, isn't it, to be getting on with. So I'm going to crack on and get this bed weeded. Just a bit of gentle weeding here. And I need to take out these Savoy cabbages, which just got eaten by caterpillars, so they never really got going. And I'm just going to replace them with a couple of cabbages that are tiny, but they might see through the winter maybe. Well, I've finished this bed now and I'm really pleased with how it's looking. Because it's in the front garden, everybody who passes to come to the door can see it. And when it was looking a mess, I always felt a bit like, oh no, it looks awful. But I'm really happy now with this bed, and I'm happy with the broccoli that's growing. Some of them have started to head up now, and the cabbages down the end are looking good as well, red cabbages. Hopefully we'll have some for Christmas. And I've put the mint into the cold frame at the back, and I've planted the small cabbages in the place of those Savoy cabbages. So really, really pleased to have got that done. So as I'm looking around, this front garden is looking good now. It's transformed quite a lot from when I first set out this morning. And now let's go and work the same magic in the back garden and get that bed by the greenhouse sorted. So this is the bed behind me that needs a load of work doing to it. I need to remove the beans that have fallen over, harvest those beans, and I will cook them up, boil them for maybe about 20 minutes, leave them to cool, and then I'll open freeze them and just keep them in my freezer and take a handful out as and when I need them over the winter, because they won't, I don't think they'll dry normally now that the beans have fallen over. Sorry, I'm getting tired now. And I also have the spring onions. I'll be leaving them in the ground. I'll remove the gherkin frame, and the tomatoes can go, and the courgette plant can go. And I'll have a good old weed, and we'll see what we've got when it's done. It is done. I am so pleased to have got that job done. It took me ages. My chickens kept getting in the way, but we have got the bed cleared now and weeded, hoed. Normally I hand weed, but I hoed it because there was just so many weeds. But I think that's actually making the situation worse. So I shall have to get in and hand weed at some point when the weeds start coming back. But we did harvest the beetroot and the spring onions in the end, because it was just too hard to weed around them. So they came out. So we've had a nice harvest of them, along with the runner beans. And that is it for today. My jobs are done. There's loads more jobs to be done around this garden, but that can wait for another day. So I've been Bethan, and this has been a lovely job.